Hi, Davi here, and today we have a new episode in the art review series, and today we'll be checking out the work of at 12thfog, 12thfog. So I found this artist, I believe, via X or Twitter. So I was able to download a couple of images. I think all in all they're like 12. I think they had a bunch of different styles, but I focused more on this style where it does have some ink work and some basic not exactly flat. I mean, there are some flat base colors, but there's a bit of rendering, for the shadows and stuff like that. But anyway, and it's mainly focused on like this Yuri, girl on girl kind of a subject. Oh, by the way, this is our first art review for 2026. So it's a brand new year, guys. A brand new freaking year. So hopefully you're doing well wherever you are in this planet. And we have to lock in, right? I know I kind of dropped off because I was kind of on a break, but not on a break. But yeah, I'm back. So hopefully this will set the tone for the full 2026 year, and because it's gonna look bad if I miss the first day of 2026. So time to lock in. Anyway. So as you can see for the ink work, it's not just black. They do or decided to color it with like a red. It kind of reminds, because there are some ballpoint pens that come in red, like dark red. And I actually do like it because if it's too saturated of a color in terms of like the red color, it's just, I feel like it's gonna fight with the base color. So I think in a way, even if you do add some hues, some colors to your line work, or even it doesn't have to be like a full finished final kind of line. It can be something like this where it's a bit more sketchy, a bit rough, but I do think it has to be a bit darker. Either you try to make the lines blend with the base colors, or you make it obviously darker with a slight hint of a hue or color, because again, you don't want too much competition. Interesting, for the rendering of the shadows, they don't mind using some soft edges. I mean, even for the neck here, there's a bit of a gradient, right? Same thing for the ear or the chin. It's a bit more like red, right? But when you zoom out, it kind of looks flat. It's not a very super complex approach, but it still looks good. Now, obviously, we have like a foot scene here. I always like, scenes like this. I mean, even if you don't have a background, right? You can tell they're in like school, and maybe they're not in school. Maybe they're in their like bedroom or something, after hours, after school. Who knows? But the point is, I think this character over here with the grayish green hair is kind of toying around with this girl. I also like it how when they add the blush, but it's with actual hatch lines. I mean, you can do it via like a soft brush. It still works, but I think adding hatch lines, it just makes it more obvious. And if you have ink work anyway, kind of like this, and it has a decent amount of hatch lines, why not just use hatch lines as well for like the blushing? I mean, you can even see some of it in the ear, right? But it's not like the only thing. While it has like this obvious like set of red hatch lines, there's still like the gradient on or beneath the hatch line, so you can combine all sorts of techniques. But yeah, in the ink work, is it that final? I don't think so, but it has a rough look, but it's clean, right? You can tell for these parts over here, the ink work is going to be a lot more heavy, a lot more like not chaotic, but just rougher, but it still maintains like a somewhat clean look. And I guess because for like say for the areas in skin or the skin areas, how many lines do you see are on the inside of like this shape? You don't see much, right? So if you can focus more on the contours and avoid hatching too many of the insides for certain shapes, I think it's gonna add to the clean look. Now obviously the more you focus on the clothing and stuff like that, it's going to be a lot heavier in terms of like line work for hatching. So For as long as it's not everywhere and you have like spaces or spots in your piece where it's just somewhat empty, or where you have just flat colors underneath or beneath, I think you'll be fine. Interesting. They're also adding a decent amount of like fill-ins, right? Meaning it's like shapes where it's just almost black, or just where it's filled in. You don't see, you hardly see like the hatch lines, like it's one shape. You do see this a lot in like comics. Yes, it's great for, you can use it for like visual storytelling, but it's also a great way to save time because you don't have to, you know, add too many details, obviously. Also, with the line art, it does have a decent amount of line weight variety. If we're focusing on these lines over here, it's going to be way thicker. But on the insides, on like the more focusing on like the folds, like the more detailed type lines, it's going to be way thinner. So even when you zoom out, it's not like you're being bombarded with all sorts of because if you have some with this amount of line work, if it's all the same line weight, it's not bad. But when it comes to readability, it's gonna take a while for you to get what's going on. Unless you have like flats, which can help as well, or flat colors underneath, it can help. But having some line weight variety can help guide your eye, right? And help, in a way, it kind of makes your line art or your drawing look a little more 3D, even without like flats, if your work has decent amount of line weight variety, where the thicknesses are obviously different and they're intentional, not just random. I think it's gonna make things more readable. And I just like the lines. It's so like fluid, right? Like it goes back and forth. It feels very confident. Interesting. I think that's not a blush. I believe she was like, wait. Maybe, because I can tell by the expression here, she's kind of like mad or disappointed. Or maybe she has like bad intentions, right? And her eyes here are kind of like dead. You can see like a bruising in the shake in the mouth. Clearly in she's being dominated by this brown haired girl, so something must be going on. We see some scrapes in the knees. Jesus. So hopefully it's just like a simple, you know, one of those like random fights, but who knows, right? Could be the same couple, but it's a bit darker. Like I see way more filled in areas, right? But it still has a bit of that reddish tone to it, or color. Now compare that to these lines along the hair. It kind of matches the actual color of the hair. Like these darker lines, these thicker, darker lines, they're a bit more like green to kind of match like the hair color. So now in this case, for the girl above, the brown hair girl, not much of a difference. The same color for the hair in terms of like the lines is the same color for the rest of the piece. But do you see how, even though this is a bit rough, right? But zooming out, it still feels kind of clean. I wouldn't mind like a comic like this. Now as someone who's not like an avid manga comic reader, I don't know, I'm not too bothered by sketchy stuff. In fact, I think I prefer more rougher works. I mean, it still has to be clear and readable, but okay, so just kind of mad, kind of pissed off maybe, or worried. Same girl, but maybe she's walking away. Oh, interesting. She splashed water to her face, and maybe right now this green haired girl is feeling a bit like she's done, like she's walking away almost, and she can't understand why she's walking away. Maybe she has like a toxic past, which makes her push people away. Maybe it's a bit, it may be a bit too extreme, but as you can see with the injuries, but you know, you want to have drama, I guess. So there you go. Could be a different context. Well, I think it's the same girl, but maybe it's a different. They have different uniforms, so perhaps like a neighbor or maybe a younger sister. Who knows? But yeah, again, the ink work. Look at how it's just the thickness of it. It feels fluid. And I like how it's not always like closed. For example, you have gaps in between, right? Not everything has to be completely like filled in. It can make the coloring process harder, but because some people use tools like the bucket fill tool and stuff like that, but if it's not a super complex environment or scene, then I don't think it matters too much. Right, and for the flats, it's mostly flat. The only major or close thing, or the closest thing to rendering is like the soft brushes being used here for like the knees, the nose, maybe some parts of the face. It's a bit of like pink reddish like gradient. It does add a bit of life to your piece, especially to like skin. I'm guessing this girl with the long dark hair is a bit more of the. I'm not sure if it's the same. Wait. This girl could be this girl, because if you look at the eyes, short hair, the eyes, right? This could be like a love triangle or something. You know what's so funny? I actually don't mind. I mean, you know, I'm very open to like romance, like animes, right? Or shows. Like I don't always want to watch like an action-filled anime. I mean, it's fun, but once in a while, I like watching some romance stuff. But to me, I don't mind it if it's like a guy on guy or girl on girl or a mix of everything. I don't really mind. So because the dynamics, sure, there may be some differences here and there, but in general, you know, the idea of being in a love triangle, or you know, the idea of tension, stuff like that, I think it works either way, right? Now maybe they had like a rough sketch, because even though this is kind of like a sketch, it still feels like clean to me. You can tell she's being more of the flirtatious one. She's kind of nervous, kind of worried, kind of confused maybe. Look at that. I'm not sure what program they're sketching on, maybe on an iPad or something. Interesting, the lines are kind of blurred. I'm guessing they drew it very small and then they expanded it. And then that's when they added the color for like the hair. But you can tell they have like an expertise. They have like a focus on girls, Yuri. And for the line art here, it's a little more has opacity. That's why it looks kind of like a gray scale. It's almost like a pencil brush being used. And I also like this way of rendering. It's gonna be a lot faster because all you're really doing, for example, if you look at the shirt here, the only thing you have to focus on is the shadow. And what you want to do to add color is to make sure your shadows have color. In this case, the shadows are going to be the color blue. And it does give the effect of your characters or subjects being like highly exposed. Because whenever you look at the highly exposed photo, there's going to be huge chunks, or where the brightest areas of that photo is going to be just almost white. So it kind of has that same effect. Which it can create automatic, very obvious contrast, but also it's a great way to save time, right? And for the skin, they're doing something different. Usually, based on what I've seen, when they do add shadows for like the skin areas, they're gonna use like a pink or something, like a red, orange, or pink, something like that. Something very close to like a skin tone. But for these two sketches, they decided to use the same shadow color blue for both, for the face and for the, not just for the dress or the shirt, but for the skin as well. I mean, there are no rules, but it's it would have been more preferable maybe, or you know, again, based on what I've seen, to make it like pink or something. But it still works, and I like it. The folds look very convincing to me. Even if they're standing, it looks correct, like they're actually standing. Because I often have this thing where if I draw from imagination or even from reference, like my characters seem like they're floating. And I like the knees too. It's like chunky, and you can tell this person has thick calves. And oh, again, I think the lines, the pencil lines are kind of blurry. The colors are a little more clear. Again, my guess is it was drawn in like a thumbnail size and then enlarged, and then that's when they added the colors or the flats underneath. Yeah, it's the same short-haired girl and the long-haired. This could be from the past because the uniform is quite different. I'm not sure. Oh wait, I think they're wearing a blazer. What? Like a, not sure. That's a pink and orange hair girl again. She kind of reminds me of an anime from, I forgot the show. She's like a, she's all, like she's obviously the girl, but she has like, she behaves like a guy. Like she's a very dominant female character. I wasn't able to finish the full show, but I did like it. And the guy has like blue hair or something, and he's sort of cursed with this, well, curse of constantly being in like accidents. I forgot the show name, but I remember seeing the trailer and the way she had like this look, like this aggressive look. But it was in a very possessive but loving way. I don't know. Is it tsundere? I'm not sure if that's a proper term, but dominant, aggressive, possessive type. I don't know. The classic pose where you place your arm around the person against the wall, and you know, it's like an act of domination, right? So you can tell in this relationship, I feel like the dark-haired brown girl, is going to be more of the top. The pink-haired girl going to be more of the bottom, you know? Which is so cool because there's always going to be that dynamic. One's going to be the more, I wouldn't, you could say masculine, feminine, but you know, the dominant and the sub. You know, some of the terms I learned is, I'll say this, I watch people, I join people's communities, and I don't comment, but I just watch what they say, you know, the terms they use, and sometimes it does seep out for me, so forgive me. But yeah, I'm gonna link this page in the description below, and yeah, happy new year, and I'll see you in the, so yeah, we're starting the new year with some Yuri, you know, girl on girl action, and yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.